I'm Tiffany with HopeJoyInChrist, and today I want to talk about the biblical reasons for marriage. Um, Before I start that, I just want to share that at HopeJoyInChrist, we are trying to create a place, a safe place to encourage and equip people to really mature in their faith and to thrive in their marriage. And what started that out so long ago was struggling in my own marriage, my second marriage, I'll say up front, and really not having a lot of resources to go to for help, real help. Most of my friends were either on their second or third marriage, or they had just sworn off marriage at all. And that's pretty normal in our culture. We really don't see a value for marriage, right? It's easier to kind of fall in love, live together, do life together, and not worry about marriage. But I'm here to tell you that there are good, strong biblical reasons for marriage that I feel like can help you have a good perspective as you're kind of seeking out this idea. Should I get married? Or maybe, there came a time in my marriage now where I wondered, like, what is the point of this? This is a lot of hard work some days. And in the beginning, we were struggling to have children. We kept miscarrying. And I think I had this idea that marriage was kind of like this first step in starting a family, and you needed that really to have a good foundation for a family. And so what if you couldn't have a family? Like, there just really are a whole lot of, I don't know, misconceived ideas about what is the point even of marriage. And so the first thing you have to know as you're thinking about why get married or why stay married or why fight for my marriage is that God instituted the whole concept of marriage. In the very beginning with Adam and Eve, they came together and God joined them together. Can you even imagine what that would have been like to have had God matchmake for you? Like, God created Adam and then he created Eve and then put them together. And what a beautiful marriage that had to have been. Except we know kind of it wasn't perfect, right? Like, they had such a mess within themselves, which is kind of like, oh, how crazy the first marriage was a mess. But then it's kind of like, oh, great, the first marriage was a mess. Like, we're not doing it that much different. We're still kind of a mess sometimes. In the book of Matthew, Jesus kind of speaks to this question about marriage. And he says, from the beginning, he created them male and female and said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife. Oh, my nose is itching. I'm so sorry. And the two will become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. And so what God has joined together, let no man separate. And so God created marriage. He designed it. He had the idea together when he created Adam, the first man, and Eve, the first woman. He had designed them for marriage, for life together. And so why consider marriage, or what is the point of marriage? Well, God created it, God designed it. And so obviously there is a reason, there's a point. God never does anything without a reason. And everything that he does is meant for our good, right? For blessing and not cursing, to give us hope and a future. And so God created it. He made it. In the Bible, we see he made this beautiful way to point people back to him, right? That we are in this intimate relationship with him when we're walking with God. And so that is beautiful and super confusing, that God's like the husband and the church is like the bride of Christ. And the Bible talks about it a lot. And so we know that that's true, right? And so God created it. His intention was that it would point a lost world back to him. That he's not kind of loosely in a relationship with us. You think about this, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I got this wrong so many times, and lived with a boyfriend before we were married, and so I can tell you on this side of marriage why I wish I had never done that. What kind of baggage and mess that brought into our marriage, even though we are both seeking after God and we are forgiven and working through things, there are still consequences that we walk in from living in that season. And so if we're thinking, I am in love and I'm in a committed relationship, and so we're just going to live together, and who cares about marriage, right? That's just a piece of paper. I will tell you, it's not. It made such a difference in our relationship almost immediately from the moment we got married, from the year and a half we lived together beforehand. Um, Now, when I was living in sin in that way, I had such good justifications, right? I had been married and divorced, married to a con man who I had no idea. And I thought for sure living together beforehand would fix that, right? We would get used to each other. We would see each other's flaws. We would be better in a place to make a decision if we should get married because we knew the good and the bad and the ugly, but it didn't work that way. Because especially in that beginning stage of I'm in love and this is wonderful and this is forever, we're kind of blind to all the bad. Even if we're jaded, and I was so jaded, I was looking for the bad, but I still couldn't see it. And we can't think long term in that season. And so, as much as I thought living together instead of being married, that would be the answer, that did not fix the problems. It just didn't. And so, just be forewarned, if that's your thought process, it doesn't work out that way. It would be nice if it did almost, but God really had a reason when he said, wait before you're sexually intimate. That relationships kind of follow in this pattern, and then you get married, and then here are all the things. Because that commitment, that peace, it brings something that doesn't come beforehand. He created and he knew what was best. The next thing is that marriage brings, I kind of said this commitment to it, even in this culture where we are kind of cancel culture and divorce the second I don't feel in love with you and that kind of thing. Marriage still brings a commitment, and it brings a security that you don't realize you needed. And so that is a biblical reason for marriage. When God created it, he created that we would become one flesh. There would be a security. There would be this support. We would feel this, I don't know, this fulfillment that comes with marriage. That's really amazing and beautiful. And we don't have that beforehand. Beforehand, really, it's an open door. They can leave whenever. We could leave whenever. If this didn't work out the way we kind of thought it would, that's just a trial run. But it's not. It's not anything like marriage, though we think it's going to be, right? Because what's the difference between living together and living together with his last name? I don't know. But being that God created marriage and God designed us, and there are parts of us that we can't see, we can't understand. I think about, we've been studying this year specifically about how to love the Lord our God with all our heart and all our mind and all our soul. And our soul specifically, that thing that we can't see, that part of us that expresses our being, that expresses our desires, our longings, we can't see that. And there are all of these parts of us, not so much like internal and organs or whatever. I don't mean that, but I mean the spiritual parts of us, our heart, our soul, the things that are in our will and our being, that we think we understand this world and the way it works and the way we're living, but we can't even see that stuff to understand it. And so we just have to know that God can, and he designed it. And when we're walking through this thing in our own way, in our own understanding, we kind of get it wrong. We mess it up because there's a whole part of it we can't see. And so keep that in mind. Those are kind of the main things I just want to put out as we're thinking about the reasons for marriage, even in today's society, that there comes this blessing with marriage, with walking through life doing it his way, even if you have already done it wrong, even if you're kind of testing out the perks of marriage beforehand, we can step back. We can confess that and begin to walk in purity and holiness as we wait for this next step that God says to do. And then there is a blessing in it. Even if maybe like me, you messed up in the midst of it, just beginning to acknowledge and understand the reasons God designed and created marriage can help us have a better relationship with him, can help us walk in fullness with him, abundance with him now, can help us if you're married and you're trying to figure out, what is the point of this? This is hard. Should I even fight for this marriage? Should I even work toward this marriage? Understanding the reasons God created marriage and designed it and what he put in it as a blessing can help us have the motivation and then the momentum to keep fighting for our marriage. So I just want to encourage you in that. There are 10 reasons on the site in the article. I'll link down in the comments below. And if you have any questions or you just want to talk it out, just drop me a comment and we can chat through it. All right, until the next time, you have a blessed day.